Have you ever sat by the window, cup of tea in hand, watching the world go by and suddenly realized it's been days since you've had a real conversation with someone? You're not alone. I'm talking about something that affects millions of us as we age. Yet somehow, nobody seems to talk about it openly. Today, we're breaking that silence. Welcome, friends. In this video, we're tackling what I call the hidden epidemic of our generation: loneliness. It sneaks up on us as we age, often disguised as independence or enjoying our own company. But there's a big difference between choosing solitude and feeling isolated. You know, when I turned 65, I remember thinking I'd have all this wonderful free time. The kids were grown, retirement was finally here, and I had dreams of traveling and taking up new hobbies. Nobody warned me about the empty spaces that would appear in my social calendar or how quickly friends could drift away after retirement. The truth is, loneliness affects our health just as much as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. That's not just my opinion. That's what research tells us. It increases our risk of heart disease, stroke, and even dementia. But here's the good news. Once we recognize it, we can do something about it. In this video, I'll share 5 powerful strategies that have helped thousands of people in our age group reconnect and rebuild meaningful relationships. These aren't complicated techniques that require you to completely change who you are. They're simple, practical steps you can start taking today. Before we dive in, if you're finding this helpful so far, take a quick second to hit that subscribe button below. I share new videos every week with practical advice for living your best life after 60, and I'd love to have you join our growing community of wise and wonderful folks. Let's start with the first strategy: understanding the difference between being alone and being lonely. Many of us confuse these two experiences. Being alone is a physical state. It simply means there's no one else in the room with you. But loneliness is an emotional state. It's that feeling that you lack meaningful connections, even when you're surrounded by people. I remember meeting Margaret, a viewer just like you, who told me she lived in a busy retirement community, but felt completely isolated. "I'm always around people," she said, "but nobody really knows me." That's loneliness in a nutshell. The key is to recognize when you're crossing from healthy solitude into loneliness. Some signs include feeling like you have no one to talk to about important matters, believing no one would notice if you disappeared for a day or two, or finding yourself going through entire days without meaningful human interaction. The second strategy focuses on rekindling old connections before trying to make new ones. We often think the solution to loneliness is to go out and meet new people, but that can feel overwhelming. Instead, start by reaching out to people you already know: former colleagues, distant family members, or friends you've lost touch with. You'd be surprised how many people are thinking of you right now, wondering how you're doing. A simple text message saying, "Just thinking of you today," can reopen doors you thought were closed forever. When I tried this, I reconnected with my college roommate after 30 years. We now have a weekly video call that I look forward to every Friday. Technology can feel intimidating, but it's also a powerful tool against loneliness. Our third strategy is embracing technology on your own terms. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. "I'm not good with those smartphone things," or "social media isn't for me." That's perfectly okay. You don't need to become a tech expert overnight. Start small. If you have a smartphone but only use it for calls, try adding one new skill each week. Maybe start with sending pictures to your grandchildren. Then perhaps try a video call. There are wonderful classes designed specifically for our age group at local libraries and community centers. I took one myself last year and met 3 lovely friends who were all there for the same reason: to stay connected with their families. Remember Jim from Tucson? He was a widower who hadn't seen his grandchildren in California for years. After learning to use video calls, he now reads them bedtime stories 3 nights a week. "It's not the same as being there," he told me, "but it's so much better than just hearing their voices on the phone." If you're enjoying these tips and finding them helpful, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us reach more people just like you who might be feeling alone and unsure where to turn. Plus, our subscribers tell us that having our weekly videos to look forward to becomes a bright spot in their week. Another small connection in a world where every connection matters. Our fourth strategy might surprise you: volunteering. Now I know what you're thinking. How does giving my time away help with my loneliness? But there's powerful magic in helping others. When we volunteer, we shift our focus away from our own isolation and toward making someone else's day better. The beauty of volunteering is that it provides built-in social interaction without the pressure of having to make conversation. You're there to accomplish something together, which naturally leads to connections. Plus, you'll meet people who share your values. After all, they're volunteering for the same cause. Start small, perhaps 2 hours a week at your local library, animal shelter, or food bank. These places always need help, and they're full of kind-hearted people. Marion from Florida told me she began volunteering at her local hospital gift shop after her husband passed away. At first, I just needed somewhere to be, she said. But now, 3 years later, those volunteers are my closest friends. We celebrate birthdays together, support each other through health scares, and I never feel alone anymore. The fifth strategy is perhaps the most challenging, but also the most rewarding. Being honest about your loneliness. There's an odd stigma around admitting we're lonely, as if it's somehow our fault or a personal failing. It's neither of those things. Loneliness is a natural human emotion that everyone experiences at different points in their lives. Try this simple exercise. The next time a trusted friend or family member asks how you're doing, be honest. You might say, "Actually, I've been feeling a bit lonely lately." You'll be amazed at how many people respond with, "Me too." That simple admission opens the door to deeper connections. I remember when I first tried this with my neighbor Susan. We'd been exchanging pleasantries for years, but never really talked. One day when she asked how I was, instead of saying fine, I said, "To be honest, the house feels pretty empty these days." Her eyes welled up and she told me she'd been feeling the same way since her husband took a job that required frequent travel. That honest moment led to our weekly dinner tradition that's been going for 3 years now. Let's talk about our sixth strategy, creating rituals and routines that connect you with others. Humans are creatures of habit, and we thrive when we have regular social interactions to look forward to. These don't have to be grand events. Sometimes the smallest routines bring the most comfort. Consider establishing a standing coffee date with a friend each week, or join a class that meets regularly, whether it's a book club, a gentle exercise class, or a crafting group. The key is consistency. When you show up week after week, acquaintances gradually transform into friends. Walter, a 78-year-old viewer from Oregon, shared how he started walking his dog at the same time every morning at his local park. Within a month, he told me, I had a whole group of dog-walking friends. We now meet for breakfast once a week after our walk. Some days I'm more excited to see them than to walk my dog. But don't tell Rusty I said that. This brings us to our seventh and final strategy, becoming a connector. This might be my favorite because it transforms loneliness into leadership. Instead of waiting for invitations, become the person who creates opportunities for connection. Start a dinner group, organize a movie night, or create a walking club in your neighborhood. When Rose from Michigan wrote to me, she was recovering from losing her husband of 52 years. I waited for months for someone to include me, she said. Then I realized no one was going to rescue me. She started a Sunday soup tradition, inviting different neighbors each week for a simple meal. Now people ask me weeks in advance if they can join. I've gone from the lonely widow to the community connector. The truth is, we're all responsible for building our social circles as we age. The connections that came automatically during our working years or when we were raising children now require more intention and effort. But that effort is worth it. Your health, happiness, and even your longevity depend on it. Remember, loneliness isn't something to be ashamed of. It's a signal that one of our basic human needs isn't being met. Just like hunger tells us we need food, loneliness tells us we need meaningful connection. It's not a character flaw. It's a normal human emotion that's trying to guide you toward what you need. As we wrap up today, I want to thank you for spending this time with me. In a way, we've connected through this screen, and I'm grateful for that. If you found value in these strategies, please share this video with someone who might need to hear it. And if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel for more conversations like this one. We're building a community here of thoughtful people who believe that getting older should mean getting better. I'd love to hear which of these strategies resonates most with you. or if you have other approaches that have worked in your life. Share your thoughts in the comments below. You never know who might benefit from your experience. Remember, the antidote to loneliness isn't just being around people, it's about creating meaningful connections. And it's never too late to start. Here's to less loneliness and more joy in the years ahead. Until next time, take good care of yourself. You deserve it.